Hi, it's Dre Griggs with Obsidian Wisdom. Today we'll be discussing financial planning for purchasing your home. When you're looking to purchase your first home, I know you're thinking, I already know what to do, Dre. I just have a down payment and then I get my home based on whatever it is that I'm pre approved for. When you meet with a financial planner, they're not just going to be telling you how much home you can buy. That's what a real estate agent is generally going to tell you. Now, they do take into consideration through underwriting whether you'll be able to make the payment. So don't get me wrong there. But a financial planner is going to be looking at the purchasing of a home within the effect and the impact it's going to have on your overall financial goals and your life goals that you have set for yourself. Instead of it just being a question of how much house can I afford, it's a question of how much house should I get so I can maintain my current commitments to my future goals. Another way to think of that is if you've already said, I'm going to be investing 10, 15, 20% of my check every single month that is going to go towards my freedom plan, whether that's just financial freedom or traveling or whatever it is that you have set as a goal for yourself. Then if you say, you know what, Dre, I have to drop that commitment down to 5% to be able to afford this home. Well, that question by itself is one that now you're thinking, should I do it? Does that still make enough sense for me? What I want us to do is just to take a step back and to say, okay, I understand why I want to buy a house. Buying a house, you feel like you're living the American dream. You feel like you are succeeding in many ways. Maybe your parents and your friends all want you to get a house, your spouse or you yourself want to get a house. It becomes a symbol of status, of success. I have this house, things are going well for me. When you look at it in your overall financial plan, you guys always know I'm talking about when we're looking at freedom, we're not trying to get semblances of freedom. We're trying to achieve actual freedom. Freedom to choose what you do, when you do it, how long you do it, and who you do it with, supporting causes that you believe in, working in your passion projects, not necessarily working for a paycheck. When you look at a house, that is a semblance of freedom, and it could come at the expense of your freedom. If you want to make sure that you're not making that decision, then there's a few questions that you'll discuss with your financial planner that I think will benefit you today. One question is, do I have the 10 to 20% saved up so that I can purchase this home? There are situations where you can get a home with FHA for 3%, but wouldn't it be better if you could have up to the 10%? Even if you decided to go with the 3% FHA, one of the benefits I believe of going to the 10 or 20% is you're training yourself to say, I save for saving's sake. You don't want to be someone that's in a habit of saving to purchase something, then you spend all of the money and it's all gone and you have to start back over from zero. On that note, it's also important to make sure, do I still maintain my emergency fund? You do not want to be spending your emergency fund on purchasing a house. We'll go into some of the expenses of being a homeowner later in this episode, but you don't want to spend your emergency fund. It is for your emergency. If something were to happen where you have a medical expense or you were to lose your job, or once you have a house, you have certain expenses like my AC goes out. I live in Florida. When my AC goes out, it is a big deal to make sure that we get that back connected as soon as possible. You could go a day or two because I don't like paying the emergency show up fee. So I may go like one night where I'll go and get some fans and then we'll run the fans overnight. My wife's looking at me like I'm crazy. The kids are looking at me like I'm crazy. But that's just me. I generally don't like paying the emergency showing up at midnight fee. I believe that we can make it through one night and then we could just call and schedule the regular appointment and then just pay them to fix it. Make sure that you have a contingency plan if there is any sort of an emergency when you first purchase the home. One example would be, what if we're approved for this home based on two incomes and something happens to one of us? We would end up having to sell the house and move, all while dealing with the loss of our spouse or loved one. Wouldn't it make sense to go ahead and get enough life insurance before you close on the home that it makes sure that if something happens to one of you, then the house is able to be paid off and then you don't have to worry about moving while you're dealing with the grieving of your loved one? These type of questions and situations are ones that most financial planners will have at least been trained on or experienced personally when it comes to financial planning and ensuring that they make sure their clients are able to maintain the strides that they have achieved over time. You may also want to consider, what would a 15-year mortgage look like? Not saying that you have to get it. In fact, if you are financially responsible where you work with a financial planner or you just already are very good with your money, then I would say get the 30-year. but go ahead and make the payments based on a 15-year. Let's say we have a 30-year mortgage and that payment is $1,000 a month. And let's say if you were to have a 15-year mortgage, just to make the math easy for me, that would be $1,500 a month. So instead of setting up your mortgage as a 15-year, where you have that $1,500 a month payment, where you have a percentage of that money that's going towards principal, and you have a percentage of that money that's going towards interest, go ahead and set it up as a 30-year mortgage at $1,000. Then you have $1,000 as going towards some principal and some interest, and then the extra $500 that you pay each month is going straight to principal. It is not being calculated in your interest and fees and taxes and so on. It's going to help you by making the exact same $1,500 a month payment that you would if you had a 15-year, but you have such a smaller portion that's actually going towards the interest, and you have a significant amount more that's going towards your principal. This only works if you're responsible in the sense that you set it up automatically, or you trust yourself to be able to make that 15-year payment even though you're not obligated to do so. Another benefit of being obligated to pay a 30-year mortgage, but you're making the 15-year payments, is if something were to happen, if you had some sort of a financial emergency, you could take off a few months where you just make the $1,000 payment, and then you have that extra $500 cushion that you can then allocate towards whatever that emergency was. Hopefully you're able to see the benefit of just by speaking to a financial planner, answering certain questions, that you're able to think so much more clearer, where it's not a question of what was I pre-approved for and can I buy it, but the questions become much more complex and much more beneficial for you to make sure that you're not sacrificing any of your important goals and that you're able to stay in that house once you get there. Another thing that you'll want to consider is when you're making your overall budget, you don't just want to be able to say, well, I can afford this much house, I can get it. Realistically, you don't want to be spending more than 25% of your monthly income on your mortgage. You also don't want to be spending much more than about 35% of your income as far as the budgeting when it comes to the different expenses that you're obligated to on your credit report. Most underwriters are going to be looking at that. I've seen instances where they will go up to as much as 30% where you can spend that on a mortgage. I would actually prefer you to be in that 20 to 25% range. If you're at 25% of your check, what will end up happening is you get paid, let's say, twice a month. You get paid on like the 15th and the 30th. If you get paid on the 15th, you have half of your month's income. Well, half of that would go towards your mortgage. So you have the other 75% of your income, at least, that you then can allocate towards your other expenses, your investments, your freedom fund, traveling in, different things that you want to do with your family, paying off student loans if you have them, and other debt. Where if you start creeping up to 35% of your income is going towards your mortgage payment, then you're usually not able to allocate any money towards your investments and your freedom. That a lot of your money is tied up in your house. Once you pay the taxes and the insurance, and whenever you have unforeseen events that happen where someone runs over your sprinkler, or you have a window broken, or you have squirrels that chew holes in your roof, all sorts of crazy things end up happening. And you don't have that freedom of your income to be able to allocate towards it. Now you have to pull the money from your emergency fund. Now you have to pull back on your investments because you're trying to maintain your house in these different unforeseen events. In addition, make sure in your financial plan for your house that you have money set aside for closing costs. Now, closing costs generally are somewhere between 2 to 5%. If you were to buy a $100,000 house, you would expect to have $2,000 to $5,000 in closing costs. If the house costs $200,000, you would expect to have $4,000 to $10,000 in closing costs. If your house costs $1 million, you expect to have anywhere from $20,000 to $50,000 in closing costs. Also, don't forget to plan for your new and ongoing expenses, whether that is tied to the fact that you have to pay someone to help you move, whether you want to paint the house and change the colors, need to update the appliances, whether you plan to update the appliances or the appliances broke as you were moving in, however that looks, let's go ahead and make sure that we're not finding ourselves between a rock and a hard place because something requires money that we didn't think of ahead of time. By looking at the age of your house and the age of the appliances, you can calculate how long something should last. They generally tell you that, hey, you can expect this oven to last for 10 years. You can expect your TV to last for 50,000 watch hours. They give you different numbers of what you should expect. If you plan to replace it before that time, then you put yourself in the best situation. By allocating a percentage of your budget towards ongoing expenses, whenever something happens, you just go into that part of your budget to be able to replace it. Whether you have 50, 100, 500, $1,000 a month, whatever it is based on the expenses in your house, when you put that money aside each month, as things break, have that fund already set up. If you're going to make sure that you have the house and you want to make sure that it doesn't change the way that you allocate the rest of your money, then you need to be intentional with your money. We can't say, I'm just not going to have any of these expenses. And by the way, I'm not going to use my credit cards. And by the way, I'm not going to use my emergency fund. If you're not going to use any of the places you currently have your money, then you have to create the place that you're going to take the money from. And by saying, well, I'm going to go ahead and have my home repair or my upgrading my home budget, then you put that money aside each month. If you plan early enough, then you don't have to allocate such a large percentage of your budget. You can have 1% of your budget goes toward this amount. Now, for some, based on budget constraints, getting warranty insurance works for them, where they have a certain number of payments that they make each month. Then the home warranty insurance should cover the repair of whatever that expense is. Now, I haven't had the best of luck. I personally don't have warranty insurance because it just didn't work for me. Every time I called them, they always told me it was something that wasn't covered and I had to fix it myself. I do have other friends that swear by home warranty insurances, where as soon as they call them, they say that they come out the next day and then they always fix it. They never give them any problems. And on that note, you're ready to calculate your budget and begin saving. If you want, you can open up a Right Capital account for free if you go to obsidianwisdom.com. I have it available where you sign up for your free financial planning account. Within Right Capital, you can put in everything from your family members' names to your income, your expenses, your financial goals, and then it'll even calculate how much you have as your net worth and how much you'll need to save. From there, you'll be able to get a snapshot of where all your finances are. Then you can say how much money you want to allocate towards your home, how much money that you want to allocate towards your emergency fund, how much money do you want to allocate towards your debt and your expenses, and how much money do you need to allocate towards the ongoing expenses of having your home. By having a financial plan in place for your house, it's going to eliminate the worry that you'll have when it comes to, can I afford this house? Should I get this house? Do I have enough money to be able to pay my other bills? Where am I going to get the money from? You're going to have the answer to all of these questions. Then when you meet with your real estate agent and the underwriters, you already know what it is that you're looking for. You can't be talked into spending a little bit more because you already know exactly what that would mean. It's not a question of whether I'm just going to be spending another $50 a month, because that's often how it is portrayed to you. It's really a question of, do I have the money to be able to spend on all the other things that this amount of additional house is going to impact? Is it going to change the appliances and when I'm going to be able to replace them? Am I going to be living from a different distance where I need to allocate more money towards transportation and maintenance of my car? Is it going to change how much I need in that life insurance to make sure if something were to happen to me or my spouse, we'll be able to maintain this house? The question isn't just, can I afford to pay another $50 a month? The question is, how does this impact my financial plan, my future goals, and am I okay with that? If you like the video, I ask you to like and subscribe, and feel free to check out other Wisdometric videos if you're looking for ways to eradicate financial stress, generate passive income, and build a prosperous retirement strategy.